You keep performing the version of yourself you think others will finally love, unconditionally. But they don't even notice the mask slipping. Carl Jung, the Swiss psychiatrist who mapped the architecture of the unconscious mind. That ache, the one he names, settles somewhere under the ribs, so familiar you almost stop feeling it. In memories, dreams, reflections, he cuts straight to the marrow of the struggle. Who looks outside, dreams. Who looks inside, awakes. Each morning, you step into the world equipped with your latest projection, desperate for acceptance. But the approval you crave slides just out of reach, while another, quieter voice inside nags at the price you keep paying. Maybe you sense it most in those in-between moments. In the mirror, on the train, waiting for your phone to light up. Nothing hits quite like realizing the effort wasn't even noticed. The good opinion remains withheld. The mask unnoticed and unappreciated. If you keep replaying this performance, sooner or later exhaustion sets in. The self that you nurture in secret grows pale and resentful. There is fear here, a kind of terror that says if you let the mask drop for even a second, everyone will recoil. That voice lives deep, seated during those early days when connection seemed conditional, affection always up for negotiation. You do what you think will buy belonging, only to lose yourself in the process. A loss so subtle, you wonder if there's any you left behind the performance at all. Modern man in search of a soul corners this fear head-on. Knowing your own darkness is the best method for dealing with the darkness of other people. This isn't just armchair psychology. It's the recognition that real connection comes from mutual vulnerability, not staged perfection. Most never get close. They ricochet endlessly off each other's curated facades, forever hungry, never truly seen. Even when someone reaches in, both sides clutch their armor instinctively, protecting what they most desperately wish would be loved. You might see it playing out at the family dinner table, where certain topics are permanently off limits. In friendships, where sarcasm becomes a shield and confessions dry up. In meetings, where someone talks in circles, terrified that a hint of confusion will shatter their credibility. The longer this cycle continues, the less oxygen there is in the relationship. Each side waits for the other to make the first move, to dare realness, and neither does. So resentment festers, the connection erodes quietly, and loneliness blooms inside crowded rooms. Turn now to history, where entire cultural systems have been obsessed with the management of appearance. Victorian England wrapped its anxiety in rigid etiquette, policing emotion as if it were a threat. Samurai codes in feudal Japan demanded a surface calm, even as internal storms raged. Every generation invents new masks to fit. Social media is only the freshest paint on an ancient wall. The yearning to be unconditionally loved isn't modern or superficial. It is primal, and so is the habit of hiding in plain sight. The real tragedy emerges when the hiding stops being a choice and becomes reflex. When you can't remember which parts of you are costume, which are skin. Inside, the root system of this behavior tangles around shame. Not the loud, punishing kind, but the softer, subtler version. If you knew me, really, if I let my darkness show, you wouldn't stay. We inherit this from parents, caregivers, first heartbreaks, and the ambient hum of expectation everywhere. Instead of integrating those parts, You exile them, always hoping the public, masked version will be enough to finally draw someone close. But exiling your darkness costs more than comfort. You lose your compass, your capacity for real empathy. If you refuse to know and accept your own hidden parts, you freeze in fear when someone else tries to show you theirs. Honest relationships wither on that barren ground, because intimacy can only root where the soil is turned, where no part is hidden too long from the light. All that energy you spend crafting the version of yourself you hope will be loved, it's energy taken from authentic living. Anxiety replaces calm. Relationships become delicate negotiations instead of safe harbors. You might excel at work, keep a flawless profile for acquaintances, even make your family proud. But in quiet moments, the hollowness rings louder than any applause. You feel disconnected from your own wants, unable to trust even your joys, suspecting that any slip of honesty would undo everything built so far. In time, if the mask never comes off, the person wearing it disappears inside. And the crisis sharpens right there. Is there even a difference now between the mask and what's underneath? Self-protection decays into paralysis. Imagine how exhausting it becomes, holding every feeling hostage, fearing exposure like a threat. There's no room left for new desires, only maintenance of what you've performed into existence. Now, doubt erupts. Are these friendships real if they aren't earned openly? Can intimacy survive if it's fed only the version you curate? The tension becomes unbearable. Genuine feeling turns into calculation. Will this story make them like me? Does this opinion fit the mold I've already sold? Your path narrows until there's one move left: crisis, revelation, or collapse. In these shadows, the cost becomes non-negotiable. The more you invest in controlling your image, the less control you have over who you actually are. Even joy, when it arrives, feels like winning a prize for best performance instead of a spontaneous reward for living. There's a critical juncture here. This thinker didn't just diagnose the ache, he cracked it open. In memories, dreams, reflections, he leaves no escape hatch. I am not what happened to me. I am what I choose to become. Everything pivots on that line. If nothing inside is fixed, then surrendering to the mask isn't destiny. It's a habit, breakable, but fierce. Here, finally, the memorable line slams down. You can't protect your heart and find it at the same time. This isn't comforting, but it reveals the trap. You think safety means invisibility, but in hiding your flaws, you barricade the only door to real connection. You're surrounded by fans, not allies. You sense the irony. The mask was meant to prevent rejection, yet it guarantees loneliness. Even achievements feel counterfeit when the self behind them fades from view. Now every ordinary pleasure becomes a stage cue. Laughter is rehearsed. Hugs feel like contracts. I'll meet your needs, so long as mine stay hidden. It would be easier to blame your past or your circumstances, but this isn't allowed here. He refuses scapegoats. The turning point is always ruthless self-honesty. Pull the thread further. Fear of being unlovable turns into fear of being known at all. If no one can truly see you, how could anyone truly love you? Self-betrayal becomes routine, and over time, your reactions are so filtered, they hardly belong to you. Have you ever caught yourself answering questions with what you think someone wants to hear? This is the moment when the gap between private self and public face feels like a chasm. That vastness is where meaning evaporates. Anxiety rushes in to fill the void. Restlessness becomes the only constant. Sometimes you'll even make choices you don't understand, betraying your own preferences just to keep the mask intact. That's the ultimate loss, trading away your instincts for approval. With each iteration, the mask grows heavier, but you grow lighter, insubstantial, dissolving fast. There's nothing gentle here. He demands you look straight at the transaction. Each false note you play is a truth you never get to live. It only intensifies when you catch glimpses of your real self, flashes of joy, unlikely cravings for honesty, sudden impatience with small talk. But these are short-lived. You push them down, afraid of rocking the boat, only to realize the boat is already leaking, filling with water you denied existed. The script you're performing wasn't even written by you, yet you keep reciting the lines. Relationships feel like deals instead of discoveries. Intimacy is measured not in vulnerability, but in how few secrets you let slip. And so, every new encounter becomes another audition for a part you never really wanted. The world rewards the mask, but only the real self can actually feel those rewards. Stand at the crossroads. One direction continues the charade, leading to more brittle victories and quieter rooms. The other dares you to risk everything for authenticity, even if it means losing the safety you built, story by story. This thinker's insight is cutting because it leaves no room for comforting lies. He does not ask whether the past shaped you. He insists you can choose, again and again, whether to stay lost in rehearsal or step into your own lines. In the end, it's not what happened to you, nor what you did to survive, but what you'll dare to reach for next, unarmored and raw. Take off the mask, he urges, and let whatever is underneath finally breathe, for better or worse. But it's not the simple removal of a mask and then applause. The first step lands hard, awkward, uncertain, exposed. You feel every eye, hear every inner critic flare to life. There's shame buried in those layers, darker than you expected. The sense of fraudulence runs deep. Years of pretending become a comfort you can't easily discard. In Modern Man in Search of a Soul, he frames it in stark, uncompromising terms. The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. It's not cheap privilege. The stakes are terrifying. In real life, the cost of authenticity is unclear and ongoing. Friends shift away. Some colleagues withdraw. Family questions your motives. You miss the safety of your scripts, the reassurance of playing roles others recognize. But as the pretense starts to unravel, a flicker of relief grows. The world's worst fears, rejection, failure, even ridicule, all materialize in miniature, not all at once. You live through awkward silences and invitations never sent. The loss is real, but not fatal. Within this honesty, space opens. One morning, you say what you actually think in a meeting. The ground doesn't swallow you. No lightning comes. Someone across the table nods, recognizing themselves for the first time. This slow, reciprocal unveiling becomes contagious. The lonely pressure to perform everything perfectly begins to ease. Still, the resistance doesn't evaporate. It just shifts. Culturally, We're trained to polish, edit, and present our best angles. Scrubbing away uncertainty is second nature. Rawness registers as danger. Legends from every era tell us to hide what makes us vulnerable. Japanese samurai wore masks into battle, literal armor against exposure. Renaissance courts trained children in performance so early, sincerity looked like deviance. Our inheritance is camouflage. Yet there's a deeper reason why the old masks cling so stubbornly. Internally, the beliefs planted by early wounds insist. If they see the flaw, you'll lose love. If they sense weakness, you won't belong. So you minimize pain by maximizing control. 1,000 tiny self-edits as every day. The heart of rehearsal is fear. Fear of shame, rejection, and above all, abandonment. If you drop the script, will anyone stay? The result is a hidden grief. By chasing acceptance, you lose the possibility of true connection. You trade the potential intimacy of being seen for the surface comfort of being liked. Even the victories ring hollow. Praise feels brittle because it lands on the mask, not the person beneath. The less you risk, the less you receive. The rawness of your real story, the cracks, the doubt, the passion, never quite makes it to the surface. It all gets stuck, unshared, waiting on the other side of a wall no one else can see. In Aeon, he strips it to the bone. There is no coming to consciousness without pain. The rupture is the threshold. What you stand to gain may not be wilder joy or applause, but a quieter thing. A sense of relief in your own skin. The calm certainty that what breathes and moves in you needn't be hidden any longer. It's scary. Yet in risking realness, you move from rehearsal to honest dialogue with your own life. The reward isn't perfection, but presence. Moment by moment, you choose to inhabit the world as yourself, not as a role constructed to please or deflect. That's how the mask falls for good, imperfect, sometimes trembling, but finally awake to the world and to yourself. Embracing your true self allows you to experience genuine presence and connection. It's a courageous journey towards authenticity and liberation. If this resonated with you, subscribe to the channel and comment below. What mask have you been ready to drop?